The clink of silverware and the low hum of chatter filled the small Italian restaurant, where the scent of garlic bread and fresh basil clung to the air.
At a corner booth, Daniel sat quietly, his 8-year-old daughter Emily across from him, coloring in a princess book while waiting for their food. To anyone watching, he seemed like any other single dad trying to make dinner special for his little girl. What they didn't know, what nobody here knew, was that Daniel had spent 12 years in the Navy, specializing in rescue operations and close-quarters combat. Since retiring, he kept his life simple. Work at a local hardware store, take care of Emily, and stay invisible. He didn't look for trouble, but trouble had a way of finding him. Just 2 tables away, a young woman in her late 20s, dressed in a neat business suit, sat alone. Her posture was stiff, like she was holding back exhaustion, maybe even fear. She had her phone on the table, screen lighting up with notifications, but she kept ignoring them. Daniel noticed her, not in the way of a man admiring beauty, but the way a soldier reads a situation. He could see tension in her eyes, her darting glances toward the door. And then the door swung open. 2 men walked in, loud, brash, carrying the kind of energy that made people instinctively look away. One wore a leather jacket, his hands twitching as if he couldn't stay still. The other was taller, broad-shouldered, and his eyes were locked on the young woman at the table. They didn't bother waiting to be seated, they just went straight to her booth. "Thought you could hide from us, huh, Claire?" The taller one sneered, slamming his hands down on the table. The restaurant quieted. Forks froze mid-air. Conversations died. Daniel's daughter looked up from her coloring, eyes wide. "Daddy?" she whispered. "Keep coloring, sweetheart," he said softly, his tone calm but firm. His eyes, though, were sharp and calculating. The woman, Claire, straightened her back, trying to appear brave. "I told you, it's over. Leave me alone."
But the man in the leather jacket leaned in closer. "No one says it's over until we say it's over." He reached for her arm. Daniel's muscles tensed. Every instinct screamed at him to act, but years of discipline had taught him patience. He scanned the room, the exits, the spacing between tables, the terrified faces of the other diners. He knew if this escalated, someone innocent could get hurt.
Then he saw it. The flicker of fear in Claire's eyes as the tall man grabbed her wrist. That was the breaking point. Daniel stood up. He didn't rush, didn't make a scene. He simply walked over, his voice calm, controlled, but with an authority that silenced the tension. "Gentlemen," he said, placing himself between Claire and the men. "You need to let go of her hand, now." The taller man turned, sizing him up with a smirk. "And who the hell are you? Her bodyguard?" Daniel met his stare, unflinching. "Just someone telling you this ends here." Leather Jacket laughed. "Buddy, sit down and mind your business. Unless you want your kid over there to eat dinner without a daddy tonight." Daniel's jaw tightened. He glanced at Emily, who was watching with her big brown eyes, fear written all over her face. He gave her the smallest nod, a silent promise that everything would be okay. When he turned back, his voice carried steel. "Last chance, let her go." The taller man sneered, tightening his grip on Claire's wrist. "Make me." It happened faster than anyone in the restaurant could register. Daniel's hand shot out, twisting the man's wrist with surgical precision. A sharp yelp of pain filled the room as the grip on Claire broke. Before Leather Jacket could react, Daniel pivoted, using his shoulder to send him stumbling back into a chair that crashed beneath him. In the same motion, he stepped forward, positioning himself protectively in front of Claire. The taller man tried to recover, charging at Daniel, but Daniel sidestepped, grabbed the man's arm, and locked him in a hold that brought him crashing to his knees. His voice stayed calm, controlled. "This is over. Walk out, or you won't be walking at all." The room was silent except for the heavy breathing of the 2 attackers. Diners sat frozen, shocked at how effortlessly this quiet dad had dismantled 2 grown men. Leather Jacket scrambled to his feet, glaring. "You don't know who you're messing with." Daniel leaned closer to the man on his knees, his voice barely a whisper but heavy with warning. "And you don't know who I am." For the first time, fear flickered in their eyes. Something in Daniel's tone, in the precision of his movements, told them this wasn't just some random dad. This was someone who had been trained for far worse. The men exchanged a look, then cursed under their breath. They stumbled toward the door, muttering threats they didn't have the courage to back up. The restaurant stayed silent until the door slammed shut behind them. Claire exhaled shakily, clutching her wrist where the man had grabbed her. Daniel turned to her, his tone softening instantly. "Are you okay?" She nodded, though her eyes were glassy with tears. "Yes, thank you." Emily came running over, hugging her dad's leg. "Daddy, are you hurt?" Daniel knelt, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Everything's okay." The restaurant slowly came back to life, people whispering, waiters murmuring about calling the police. But what struck everyone most wasn't just what had happened, it was how Daniel had carried himself. No bragging, no anger, no showboating. Just calm, controlled protection. The manager rushed over, thanking Daniel, offering free meals, but Daniel shook his head. "Just take care of her, Bill," he said, nodding at Claire. "That's enough." Later, as they walked out, Claire followed him to the parking lot. "You didn't have to do that. They've been following me for weeks. I thought I could handle it on my own," but her voice cracked. Daniel looked at her with quiet empathy. No one should have to handle something like that alone. She hesitated, then asked softly, "Who are you?" He paused, considering his answer. Finally, he gave a small smile. "Just a dad who doesn't like bullies." But as he buckled Emily into the car and drove away, Claire stood there, replaying the precision of his movements, the authority in his voice, the calm in his eyes. Something told her the man she had just met wasn't just a dad, he was something far more. Inside the restaurant, whispers spread among the diners. Some said he must have been military, others swore he was law enforcement. Nobody really knew. All they knew was that tonight, a quiet single dad had stood up when no one else did, and changed everything.